Thanks. Can we have the agenda? I somehow didn't print mine. Good morning, everybody. As we are in proceeding bringing the agenda up, please keep in mind that we have opinions. If there's anything that you agree or disagree with, you have that right. And who's pulling up the agenda?
I can pull it up. Give me just a second, George.
Okay. We have a lot on the agenda today. Okay. Our icebreaker today is
Uh, Icebreaker is in honor of Earth Day. What types of eco-friendly steps are slash have you taken to help? Earth Day was, I believe, the 22nd of last month, so it happened since we met last time, and this was a great suggestion by Maria. So, in honor of Earth Day, what type of eco-friendly steps are you taking?
okay. My name's George. I'm down here in Medford, Jackson County. I'm co-chair with Maria on this committee. And I would have to say, Earth Day, what types of co-friendly steps? I would have to say putting cans and trash cans to make sure that they're not on the sidewalks or anything like that and be left as trash. Um, I will call on Dion.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Well, good morning for those on the West Coast. Good afternoon for those closer to the East. My name is Dion Destin. I'm executive support for our sponsor, Jillian Johnson, and I'm really diligent about not littering. Even guilty of sometimes glaring at people that do. But I also am very big about recycling. Anything that can go in the recycle bins, cans, bottles, all those things. Stay on top of those as well. And then I'll kick it over to Judith.
Yes, thank you. I went on Mother's Day to the first time ever to the Willamette Mission Park and attended a mushroom class. How to collect mushrooms, how to identify them, and we were given a kit to bring home and to start it on our own and use our own recycled wood to start our own little mushrooms. So I was very excited about that. Okay. And I will call on Vanessa.
Hi guys, Vanessa. I work for the Early Learning Hub that serves Coos and Curry County. Environmentally I mean, I'm from Southern California. I feel like our whole lives are environmentally conscious and there's things I do that I don't know. Washing in with cold water, staying away from liquid detergents, liquid soaps, use all of my like make my own compost, just typical Southern California weird things that we do that's just normal. Yeah.
Like it. Like it.
And I'll go over to Sydney.
All right. Hi, Sydney from Neighbor Impact Childcare Resources. I'm in Central Oregon. I work for the Baby Promise team, doing enrollment. Judith got me totally sidetracked because now I'm thinking about mushrooms and how I've been looking for morels like every weekend, all weekend.
This is the wrong. I understand it's not a good season for morel right now. So
Well, it's crazy. It's like everywhere. My friends are finding tons, and I haven't been as
ah,
successful yet.
they have a secret place.
I know. But that's off topic. I could talk about that all day. But um, I mean, in honor of Earth Day, We have a green team at Neighbor Impact, and so just helping collect cans and like work on, solutions throughout the whole agency of ways it can be greener. It's kind of how I've been contributing. And I will kick it off to Susan.
I'm Garcia. I'm a community partner with the Community Health Centers of Lane County. I guess what I can think of is using reusable water bottles and actually recycling things that can be recycled and not just recycling. And then to Maria Park.
Hello, good morning. I'm Maria Park, Senior Program Manager from Asian Health and Service Center. I'm co-facilitator with George and co-chair, sorry. And I try to do a lot of recycling and kind of reducing electricity water use. Okay, and I'm going to pass it to Inje.
Hello, Inje with Asian Health and Service Center Community Program Coordinator. Using cleaners without harsh chemicals, and also like replacing like disposable wrap with reusable containers. Okay, let's see. Who hasn't gone?
Brandy Storm, Brandy Author.
Vixen. Oh, sorry.
Vixen with Northeast Oregon Network, and my kids laugh because I've made them learn to do this, but we still hang our clothes to dry. The only things that I don't keep dry is towels and underwear and socks because I refuse to put my toes in crunchy socks. But we have an outdoor clothesline, and in the winter we even have like the wooden hang clotheslines. So, and it also makes your clothes last longer. And I will throw it over to Brandy with a Y.
I like that, Brandy with a Y. Yeah, I'm Brandy Strom, and I work with the Maslin Project here in the Josephine County area, Grants Pass specifically. And I return cans, pick up trash when I see it, encourage others to do the same. That's what I can think of right now. And so I'll pass it to Brandy Arthur.
Brandy with an I. Good morning. I too hang most of all of my clothes. I don't usually use the dryer as much as I possibly can. I try to use as much glass as I possibly can, so I'm not using plastic at all here. And I think if people in my household say that I am the guardian of the light because I'm constantly switching off the lights as much as possible. If we're not in the room, we don't need the light. So that's me. And I'm going to pass it to Azucena.
Good morning, Azucena Moreno, she, her, ella pronouns. I am with Oregon Eligibility Partnership. I am the Equity and Engagement Strategy Manager here. I guess recently I switched from using the disposable like wipes to like take off my makeup to using the washable, where you reuse them. So I thought that was a nice shift. And let's see, I don't think we've heard. Rocio, have you gone?
I have not, so I will go. Thank you. Rocio with the applicant portal technical team. What I've done is not recent, but I've always used more glass containers. Let's see, turning off lights when they're not in use. Any devices as well, unplugging them, although doesn't affect much, but it could be. It's something that I've done for a while. Reusable bags. Yeah, that's it. Let's see, who hasn't gone? Andrew? You wanna
Yeah.
go?
So trying to think of like specific things, but really I think mostly what I've been doing lately is trying to teach my son about like recycling. He's 3 years old, super into garbage trucks and garbage cans. And I swear sometimes we go to the park and he's like, we go to this park near us in kind of like a fancy housing development, and they have so many like kind of newer garbage and recycle bins that have like fancy levers to open them with your foot and all that. So anyway, he's so fascinated with those. I feel like sometimes he doesn't even like want to play on the playground. He just wants to look at the garbage cans. So anyway, been trying to teach him more about the difference between garbage and recycling and yard waste and like where things go in in certain bins and stuff like that. So I think that's really been my focus lately. Um, let's see. Celsiana, did you go?
Not yet, thank you. So yes, Celciano, South Coast Early Learning Hub. Um, I read on the list, turn off water while brushing teeth. I need to work on that. But every time I go to the beach, which is at least 4 or 5 times a week, I always pick up any trash that I see. And yeah, there's always plastic on there.
Okay, so looks like we got everybody now. And we're gonna go on the next thing on the agenda. Oh, Vixen, I'm sorry. Vixen.
Oh, no, I went.
Okay. I saw your little thing going up.
I was just telling him how you can just teach our children those weird things.
Okay. So let's go into the next thing on the agenda. And I'm gonna let Andrew take it from there.
Yeah. So just recap our upcoming builds. Request 77. So this one, part one, this went in back in October. Part two, if we get there in our agenda today, we will talk about later today. This was originally scheduled for our February build. I think I've kind of maybe glossed over this a few times in the last couple meetings that we have run into issues trying to get this implemented with policy. They raised some concerns that it was a little, that even in adding the help text that we approved for this, it was just putting too much information on screen. So later today, as we get into talking about our open requests, we're bringing this one back. I have kind of a changed approach to this that will hopefully, as much as we can, limit the amount of text that's being shown on screen. So we'll talk about that one. Request 82, links to learn about programs on the Let's Get Started page. This is going in with our May 13th build, so our build in a couple days here. So this will go in by the end of this week, along with request 95, implementing a system change where successful password resets will automatically re-enable previously disabled accounts. Request 89, also going in this week, is rewriting educational expense questions in the online portal to indicate the request is for a specific academic year. And request 100 will also go in this week. That is expanding the number of characters in the response field to the question, asking for a description of the user's disability or condition. That's on our disability demographics screen. Request 110, updating the unearned income details to differentiate various school fundings. This is like grants, scholarships, and clarify what non-Title IV funding is. That is scheduled for July 15th. And request 125, approved in our last meeting, is adding a character count to all open text fields, specifically open text fields with character counts greater than 200 that have limited typing space. So this will help users see as they're typing in how much space they have left. All right, so that recaps our outstanding items that are going into future builds. And then I think between now and I believe at 11, Jillian is going to join us. So between now and then, we're going to go through the charter review. We started this charter review back in March, and we had 3 different sessions with a subcommittee. We created a draft charter, and we brought it to the group last month. We wanted to give an extra month for folks to have some time with it, so that was sent out. It was sent out for the April meeting, but we sent it out again before this meeting. And I can bring a copy of that up if you give me just a moment, and we can go over it again. But I guess I want to start with, did everybody have a chance to review this or feel like they had any sort of input that they needed to add. Anything specifically that stood out. Otherwise, we can kind of just go through it again like we did last time.
So did everybody get a chance to go over this? This will be the last month to go over this before Maria and myself signs the bottom. Yes, no,
Seeing a
Yes.
thumbs up from Vixen.
Yes.
okay. Vanessa, did you have time to go over this?
Seeing a thumbs up from Sydney, thumbs up from Vanessa. So it looks like we did get some eyes on it, which is great. We appreciate that. So yeah, I'm not hearing anything immediate from anyone. So I'll just kind of, skim through this like we did last time to get everybody on the same page about where we're at.
Before you do that, Andrew,
Mhm.
what time is Julian coming on? 11 o'clock?
11 o'clock is my understanding. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, if Jillian does join, we can just go ahead, and we haven't finished. We'll just go ahead and pause this and pick it up after we've spoken with her. So this committee operates under the authority of the Oregon Eligibility Partnership Leadership and is sponsored by the OEP Deputy Director Jillian Johnson. Our mission is the ONE Online Improvement Committee convenes community representatives to analyze and prioritize suggestions from various sources based on the number of individuals impacted, whether the affected individuals have alternative resources, severity of requests for change, and the feasibility and requirements necessary to implement the change. Recommendations will be submitted to ODHS and contractor representatives to make changes within the ONE system. The committee will consider suggestions via other groups and external forum to ensure all changes made into ONE are equitable and informed. Changes to policy are outlined are outside the scope of the committee's authority. However, in the future, the scope could be expanded to include other aspects of the benefit recipient experience. So our vision is to create an online platform that is accessible and serves the needs of people who live in Oregon seeking services. Membership eligibility is committee members must have experience with the ONE system as the program recipient, either by aiding others to obtain benefits or by applying for benefits themselves. And ODHS employees will present information, take notes, facilitate meetings as needed, and support the work of the committee. Employees will support committee leadership and decisions made by committee members with as small of a footprint as possible. And employees who are subject matter experts will join only as needed. Expectations are to attend and participate in meeting discussions, alert ODHS staff when unable to attend a meeting, and do not represent your own ideas as the committee's ideas unless agreed upon as a group. Always act with honesty, integrity, and accountability. Be respectful of fellow committee members. Challenge ideas and not people. Support diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging efforts. So revocation of membership. If a committee member is regularly disruptive or acts contrary to the mission or established community agreements, then the following steps are taken. First official warning will be verbal, given by a co-chair. Then we'll move to written warning signed by the co-chairs sent via email. And continued disruption will result in a vote by membership to revoke status. Results of the vote will be effective immediately and sent via email in a letter signed by the co-chairs. Got a list of the founding members here. Elected officers, speaking about roles and responsibilities, elective officers, the following positions are elected by consensus of those attending, and a simple majority vote of committee members is necessary. Votes are conducted annually for the open position as the co-chair terms are staggered. Individuals in the co-chair role shall collaborate with other co-chair to develop agendas with help from the ODHS staff, facilitate meetings, resolve disputes among committee members, ensure prioritized lists of suggestions are ready each month, ensure review and updates of the charter occur every 2 years, and officially represent the committee. Co-chairs shall be held by one each of a consumer of the ONE system and an employee of a community organization. These respective backgrounds serve to allow full representation from the community experience engaging in ONE. And ODHS staff roles are to take meeting notes and archive, record keeping, meeting and event logistics, tracking attendance, reaching out to members who missed 2 consecutive meetings without notice to confirm continued membership, technical assistance for ONE requests, recruitment to ensure consistent representation from consumers and community organizations, track and report progress on previous change submissions at each meeting. So terms of office, each co-chair term shall be 2 years on a staggered basis, so co-chairs will overlap. And co-chair may serve no more than 2 consecutive terms. And nominations for those roles in July of each calendar year, nominations for co-chair shall be accepted from any committee member in good standing. If the nominated party accepts, they will be placed on the ballot. Elections shall be held every calendar year in July for open positions by a simple majority vote of the general membership. ODHS staff will oversee the election. If a co-chair is unable to fulfill the duties of their office, is incapacitated, or resigns, the remaining co-chair will hold a special election meeting at the next available meeting to fill the post until the end of the current term. The co-chair will be removed with cause if with a 2/3 majority vote. So meetings and decision-making, regular meetings of the members shall be held monthly at a time that allows the majority of membership to attend and platform designated by the co-chairs. ODHS staff will set the schedule yearly in advance under direction of the co-chairs. Email notice of each meeting or event shall be given to each voting member not less than 2 working days prior to the meeting in order to prepare. All meetings or events shall list a specified virtual location, beginning and end time. A quorum for a meeting of the members shall consist of at least 50% of the active membership for meetings. And while all efforts will be made to achieve consensus, decisions shall be decided by a simple majority vote of those present at the meeting, if there is a quorum. Notes or proceedings from the meeting shall be posted in electronic form, easily accessible to members within 1 month of the meeting. Required activities. Each month, the committee will submit a prioritized list of changes to make in the ONE system to improve access for Oregonians. People, we want to, just catching this here, we did want to earlier change Oregonians to people who live in Oregon. So I think we'll probably want to do that here as well. And then charter updates and renewal. This charter must be updated and approved every 2 years. Any changes to the charter requiring a simple majority vote, general membership if there is quorum. So thank you for listening to me read through that. Hopefully we're all kind of on the same page here. I'll open it again if there's anyone who caught anything or has thought of anything in their own review that we need to address before we move this on to approval and signature from our co-chairs.
Okay, I hear none. Maria and I will be signing this this month. Maria, do you know how you can sign yours? Do you need yours sent by mail or something? Because mine's by tablet.
Okay, I'll check and see. Thank you, George.
Sure. Okay, so does everybody approve of this charter before we go on? Okay, Vixen says yes. Vanessa, yes. Myself, yes. Maria, yes. Okay, Brandy, Storm, is that a yes? Brandy?
Yes, I said yes in the chat.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Judith, is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, Brandy, is that a yes? Brandy Arthur? Okay, Cindy, is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. Vixen, is that a yes?
I see a yes from Vixen, Celsiana, Sydney, Brandy Strom, Susan Garcia, NJ, Brandy Arthur, Brandy Strong. Yeah, it looks like we got a lot of yeses in the chat.
So Susan and Angra said yes too, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So since that's all yeses, including mine's and Maria's, it is passed.
Good job.
So
Okay.
Maria, make sure you can work with me on getting your to the charter signed. Maria, did you see that?
Yes,
Okay.
I did. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you guys for us having us go over and having it done. Now it's done and over with on the charter. Welcome, Julian.
Hi, everyone.
And you have the floor.
All right. Hi, a reminder of who I am. My name is Jillian Johnson. She, her are my pronouns, and I am Deputy Director with the Oregon Eligibility Partnership and sponsor for this absolutely incredible group. Really nice to meet you and see you. For communication purposes, it helps me if people are on camera, and I understand that that also means that you have to feel comfortable and have the technology and just be having a day where you can be on camera. But also just for the way I communicate, it does help me. And so if you're able to, I'd appreciate it. And if you not, no judgment. Hi. Can someone remind me how much time we have together? I think it's brief.
I think it's from 11 to 11:15, right, Dion?
Yeah, we have 20 minutes built into the agenda
Yeah.
for updates and questions.
Wonderful. Okay.
Because we felt that there might be some questions that you could answer.
Absolutely. And so I was going to give a couple updates on HR 1, the House Resolution 1, also referred to as the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, and the some of the impacts and some of the things that ODHS is working on. And are there any specific like questions or anything that you'd like me to start off with, or shall I share what I have and then leave space afterwards? Is there a preference for this group?
Let's do questions after.
All right, I love it. Thank you, Judith. Okay, so a couple things around, we'll start with food benefits. Some of the things that are going to be changing or are changing within the food benefit realm, so SNAP, is that, Oregon has a need to get our SNAP payment error rate, which is something that is reported and determined in partnership with FNS, the Food and Nutrition Services. And our error rate is relatively high. HR 1 implemented, based on error rates, cost share for states. So depending on where you fall in the federal fiscal year of 2026, which ends at the end of September, Oregon may or may not be faced with, at a future state, paying for a portion of the SNAP benefits as opposed to them being fully federally funded. And it just sort of depends on the error rate. And so what Oregon is seeing, and ODHS in particular, of course, is sort of a walking back of some of the more looser restrictions and verification requirements for the SNAP program. For example, since I can remember, like back when I was front desk or, eligibility staff, we take client statement self-attestation for shelter and utility costs. And that is a high incidence of error rates. And so we will be soon, and the more official communications will be coming out to our partners, but we will soon be having to require shelter and utility verification for SNAP application. So proof of shelter costs, proof of utility costs, where before we only relied on those if it was sort of questionable. Additional changes coming up with the SNAP program is there's a category that we refer to as NED. And these are individuals who are non-working and are either elderly and or disabled. And they, for a while now, have been able to skip the interview for SNAP benefits. And those interviews are returning. The waiver that we had with the federal government has ended, and individuals who previously fell into those categories where they didn't necessarily need a SNAP interview because of just the ongoing stability of their situations, right? Lots of people who are non-working and are aged or have disabilities have that stable income, right? They call it unearned, but often, you earned it during your life. And so those are some impacts that are coming up for the SNAP program in the coming months. For Medicaid, we are working on the Medicaid work requirements. Those will be implemented by the end of this year. I believe we're required to have them in place before we're in 2027. A lot of that is still unfolding. There's still, my understanding is that the Oregon Health Authority is doing what they can with the policy to understand what's coming and understand what rules we can be put in place. And we're working with all the different systems to have the system updated and do all of that. And additional clarity from CMS has been slow to come. So there's some educated decision making happening that still needs to be confirmed with the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services. One of the big things is around exemptions. There are certain ways that individuals can be exempted from Medicaid work requirements, similar to how there's certain ways individuals can be exempted from SNAP work requirements. The important thing to know is that they're not the same exemptions. There's some avenues of overlap, but they're not two lists that mirror each other. And they have different ongoing requirements. And so a lot of what is being worked to be put in place is with that consideration of how do we make this as little of a lift for the people in Oregon who do have to provide those verifications. And so that if, you renew your medical and then 2 months later you have to renew SNAP, where are we able to make that as least like administratively painful for the people that are trying to just navigate our services and get those supports? So I would love to consider, as the Medicaid work requirement work continues to firm up and unfold, that there is engagement with this group around what that external reporting looks like. And I don't know what the engagement with OOIC necessarily, like timing wise, in terms of how quickly quickly and slowly things are unfolding, right? We know we have a tight timeline because it has to be placed by the end of the year. And we're doing our best with the guidance that CMS has provided to date. We're still waiting on more guidance, right? And so I want to make sure that when the teams lean in to engage OOIC, that we're being really strategic and smart and respecting your time and effort, and have information that is really meaningful to come and present and obtain feedback on. So that's what I came prepared to share. And as always, I'm happy to talk about whatever is on your hearts and minds, or that of those of the people that you're also engaging with and representing here. So, Lori, all yours.
Okay. I have a question, Chair, if I may.
Go ahead.
This is Judy Richards, and I represent Northwest Senior and Disability Services. And I'm concerned about how the federal rules are going to affect and how we are implementing those federal rules. How is that going to affect the telephone system, which is already, really, really busy? But a lot of this information comes directly to the Northwest phones and other agencies throughout the state to register people and to get them started and to answer their questions. And I'm concerned that our phone system is going to be overladen because the people answer the phones are also caseworkers, and I'm thinking, how can they handle this onslaught of new information that people are going to want and also spend the time as a caseworker? I don't know if I explained that well, but that's the best I can do.
So Judith, a point of clarification, if I may ask for, are you referring to the ODHS OEP phone system that we use for like the One Customer Service Center, or are you talking about like your own phone systems within your own agencies?
Both, actually, because it's going to affect both, is it not?
I anticipate that we will see increases in phone calls. I think we also need to be aware that in addition to the federal-based marketplace for open enrollment for Medicaid, that Oregon is launching a state-based marketplace. And because of the way the rules happen, we have to have both at the same time during the transition. And so even that, right? Two ways to apply. And if we're not, that gets confusing, I'd probably apply both, right? Now we've got duplicate applications. We absolutely will see increased traffic. And if you have an agency where you're concerned about the ability of your existing phone system to navigate additional phone calls and traffic, I do think that it would be really important to just sort of check in with your IT departments and be like, hey, with all these changes coming, especially with Medicaid work requirements, the end of the year, we're concerned about increased traffic, and what is that going to actually look like?
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Julian, can you explain more about that NED or DAD that you just mentioned with the person with a disability and seniors?
Yeah.
The NED?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there is and I'm gonna look to some of my who do I have? I have Andrew. Hi, Andrew. If I say something gregariously wrong about SNAP, will you correct me if you know the answer? I can't tell if he froze or not, if it's just
Sorry, yeah, I think I'm freezing and it's saying my internet connection's unstable. So I heard you
rude.
calling me and then I missed everything else.
It's okay, Andrew. I was going to talk about Ned, and it's been a hot minute since I've had to navigate that world of Snap, and so I didn't know what your level of familiarity with the Snap program was.
I used to be very familiar, but it's, since, kind of working on online portal and more back end stuff, I've lost touch with Snap policy just because I haven't done eligibility work in a while. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it. My knowledge is probably a little outdated.
There's folks who are over 64, folks that are receiving Social Security disability or are, and because of a disability and they're not working, are able to renew their benefits and have an interview and take action every 12 months. And for a while now, we've been able to renew their food benefits without an interview. Just verify the income and renew without the interview. And so what is changing, George, to your question, what is changing is that people will now have to have an interview. And that's different when you haven't had an interview for a couple years, that now you have to have this interview. And so we've been trying to work with our partners with the Office of Developmental Disability Services, the folks within APD, and partners who often work with individuals that have either disabilities or are aged or both, and making sure that sort of the word is out there that everyone needs an interview now.
So with that being said, can there be notices sent out before that happens?
Oh yeah. Yeah. People will get notices saying they need an interview. I don't know how everyone deals with their mail, but usually I'm like, yeah, that's time to renew. I don't have to talk to them. I'm good. Right? Like we make assumptions sometimes and make decisions about what we're going to give attention to or not in notices. So there will be some additional like social media campaigns and other ways trying to just make sure that folks have awareness.
Okay.
There's a change and we get into our routine. And so there's a chance for additional impacts to folks that have fallen within that category.
So is there any questions to ask Julian right now? Susan, Ingra,
Are
Brand?
there any expected changes to the ERDC exemptions?
For like TANF?
For TANF, yeah. I guess that would be the biggest.
The OEP, ODHS, and DELC are working with the governor's office and partnering also with OHA around not OHA, why did I say that? DELC and ODHS are working with the governor's office on where there might be opportunity to move around money that is given to the state of Oregon for TANF. And some of that applies to expanding childcare options for TANF families because they also think that they want to remove the exemption. I don't have firm information yet, Sydney, because those conversations are like actively happening. We've been working on a response memo with a lot of different options to send back to the governor's office around if, and that's an if TANF families are no longer waitlist exempted and for ERDC, like that's not, if they're no longer exempted from the waitlist, right? What are the other pathways to ensure access to safe, reliable childcare that has oversight? And I don't know what the outcome is going to be yet.
Gotcha. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's a great question.
Brandy, Vixen, Vanessa, Susan, Maria, is there any questions for Julian before we go on?
I guess my only question is, I know you said you're going to be mailing the need for an interview, and with so many of the families that we worked are either unhoused or, you know, having a stable address is very difficult, and many times SNAP benefits then make folks categorically eligible for other services. So what is the plan for, is it just mailing other than social media push? Like what is the plan to support those who don't have either stable mailing address. And we know that's just really difficult for a lot of the
Yeah,
families
it's
we
super
support.
difficult. And honestly, the plan really consists of those existing channels. So if they have a phone, we'll be doing text nudges. And there's the mailing requirement. There's social media and other ways that we're trying to communicate. And the sad reality of it, Vanessa, will be that probably a disproportionate people of unhoused people compared to other folks that miss the communication around interviews will have their benefits end and they'll have to come into an office or contact a partner to get reestablished.
And what will be the window for reinstatement of benefits?
Once your benefits expire for SNAP, they're done, right? Like you're certified for your chunk of time. And so then they would come in and reapply and establish a filing date, and that would be the new date for their benefits. So let's say that the benefits expired the end of June, and the individual realizes on June 1st, hey, I don't have any food benefits, right? I have SSI. I should have food benefits. This is not tracking and I rely on this, right? Or I'm in Multnomah County and they're cash and I really need them. They'll have to come into an office, and as long as they come into an office or contact ODHS and establish a filing date, then their food benefits will go back to that date. But let's say they don't realize it for a few days and they come in on June 6th. In that instance, June 6th is their new filing date and they get a prorated amount for June.
What about the families? So because when there is a drop in services, especially ERDC, we know that the ongoing is not the same as exiting with the 200 and 250. And I've seen many times, we've been told that 12-month eligibility is what follows ERDC, but when we're asked to then redo eligibility for food stamps, and is that what's going to be the effect between that? Because that's my concern, is either someone's not going to be aware, they're going to cancel all benefits, or they were given a 12-month eligibility and hijinks happen with SNAP and then they just lose everything. Those are my questions because of how SNAP ties in with ERDC and so many other benefits.
I'm going to take that question back because it's more nuanced and I don't want to I'm not as tied into policy as closely as I was, so I do not want to give incorrect information. But I think that I'd like the ODHS team here to take that back and see what we can find out for you. It's possible that there is a gap there, right? Because most individuals who are TANF and ERDC are working and they wouldn't qualify as non-working, elderly and disabled. So we're probably talking about a very small portion of folks, but it doesn't mean they don't matter, right? So that's why I just want to make sure that that's not a gap that we haven't previously considered. Really appreciate that, Vanessa. And then I just want to read Maria's question input in the chat real quick, and then I'll probably have to transition away. Any more information about the timeline, such as when will notices be start to send out to members in 2026 or 2027? There's some significant changes coming to the ONE system, and that's sort of what so communication, I think, has to start in September for Medicaid work requirement changes that won't happen for months. Not all of us are thrilled about that really long runway for communication because people will have questions and they'll call, and it will it'll just be a challenge operationally, especially with state-based marketplace launching during open enrollment, and it's just a weird time for volume, and to Judy's question, right, around capacity. So absolutely changes in the ONE system, absolutely changes that we would want this team to be engaging in. And I don't expect that to happen for a couple months yet because we're still working on what is the clearer guidance from CMS on some things so that we can make sure things are being put into the appropriate implementation paths. So that's kind of what I know in terms of communication timeline, as well as these are some substantial changes to the ONE system. You are absolutely right, Maria. And that is what this group is built for. That is what you've been, what you contribute all this time and energy into is to make it much more accessible and understandable and person-centered when they're logging in through our applicant portal and our app. And so I love that was exactly where your brain went, was like, where are we going to help with this? And so give it a few months so the teams are like, okay, we've got the plan, we know where we're moving on making updates, and then let's be ahead of it and engaging with OOIC. Absolutely.
Okay. So okay, who said something?
I was just thanking you all for your time and for the engagement with this committee. It's been really cool to see what you've achieved. And I don't know if you do routine celebrations, but I hope you do, because the work of this group is absolutely something to celebrate. You have made these things that seem like small changes because they're work items, they add up. They make a difference, and I just have a lot of appreciation for everyone. Thank you. I do have to go, George.
Okay, so Jillian, want to thank you for coming by and talking with us.
Of course.
And then we'll get you set up again this year, before the end of the year's out.
I would love to come back in a couple months.
Okay.
Yeah, especially as we're leaning more into Medicaid work requirements.
Okay, Dion,
Awesome.
make sure she's on the list.
Thank you, everyone. Happy Monday.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Julian.
Okay, what's on the list on the agenda, Andrew?
Yep, let's check it where we are at. So we next up was to talk about kind of planning for some changes to notices and what we want to talk about there when we invite our state notice expert Lucas in to chat with us. And then we've got a break scheduled for 11:35. So do we maybe want to take break now and then pick up that notice conversation when we get back?
Yes.
So is he here or is he coming on his way in?
Lucas isn't coming this time. I wanted to start the conversation just between us so that when we do invite Lucas, we can have a more focused approach of exactly what we want to talk about. So I wanted to talk about some kind of pain points that folks have noticed with notices, specific areas that we would like to review, just because I feel like having a more focused conversation when Lucas is able to join us would be a better use of everyone's time.
So you guys want to take the break now?
I think that makes sense because we had planned for 15 minutes for this notices discussion and we've only got 5 minutes until our scheduled break. So I think maybe if we take a break now until 11:41, since we've already passed 11 or getting close to 11:31. So yeah, let's go 11:41 and come back.
I will see you then at 11:41. See y'all back. You want to take the recording off? Hello, everybody. Okay, now what's on the agenda? The notices, that's right. So, Andrew, you want to introduce the notice?
Yeah, sorry, I was just finishing chewing. So yeah, there's nothing particular to share here, but the kind of idea and thing that we've been talking about, I think we mentioned it maybe in the last 2 meetings. We are getting caught up on our normal requests, which are generally focused around the online portal, the ONE system. We've discussed the possibility of moving into looking at updating some of our notices and coming up with sort plan and like a process to, and that in itself is a really big conversation because we have, as I'm sure all of you know, we have a ton of different notices that cover a ton of different things for all of our different programs. And so really my hope today was to start a conversation about like where we would like to have like a starting point. If there's some particular notices that we can point to that partners and recipients have found problematic, confusing, kind of things that stand out that could be updated. I know in talking with George and Maria, I think Maria had some ideas to share here. But really the goal today is to come up with like a starting point so that when I talk to Lucas works in my cohort, the external, what we call the external cohort, which is anything public or community facing. And he's my counterpart that focuses on explicitly like notice stuff. So notice and correspondence stuff. So we want to invite Lucas here to start having these conversations with the group. But I felt like if we come up with a good starting point, we could have a really productive conversation. So yeah, I'm open to if anyone has any ideas. If not, maybe Maria could start the conversation off with some of the ideas that she had.
Go for it, Maria.
Oops. Hello? Okay. I was trying to find my notes. I think these were some of the notes that I put down last time. So, like definitely related to HO1 or renewal, like the renewals, and then RFIs, and then open card related notice, information. Thank you.
So Susan, have you had any problems with notices from consumers? Vanessa, Randy?
So I've learned for medical that when a person is denied, it tells you the reason, like if they're over income, it says, oh, your household is blank and the guidelines is this and this is what we have as your income. So I can start to figure out if they have the wrong household size, who they're counting, what income they're counting. But sometimes it just says a household of blank, income of blank, and so I don't know when it doesn't calculate that. So that's not very helpful when the notices don't have the information that I need. I'll try to look for them and see maybe why that it's not filling out in the notices so that we can figure out why. But I mean, I haven't had, some of them are really still confusing and sometimes you have to read a couple of notices to get a timeline of actually what's happening. But I mean, it's a lot better than it has been before.
Okay, Vanessa? Any from you? Judith, what do you think about the notices? You got any responses from people?
Well, the responses that I have gotten were actually all positive. So I don't have really too much to input.
Okay. Vanessa, do you have consumers complaining about their notices?
To be honest, I don't really look at notices too much anymore because I have access to the system. So I just hop on there.
Okay. So Brandy Storm, there's no feedback from you on that. Okay. Brandy Author, what about you?
I have no feedback at this time, George.
Okay. Vixen, are you getting any notices, any feedback from your consumers? Vixen? Okay, we'll go to Sydney. Sydney, you getting any feedback from your consumers?
It's been a little while since I received like a complaint about notices, but in the past I know language was an issue, so I wonder if it would be like, I don't really know what the plan is, but if we're going like notice by notice to kind of check out the language, um, that would be the only thing that I know could use maybe some adjustment. I also know like policy with notices are like really tied, so I don't really know how much we could change on that. But that's all I have.
Sydney, when you say language, do you mean like I guess for lack of a better term, like the verbiage that we use, like the way we say things doesn't make sense? Or is it more like specifically related to translations of different languages?
No, definitely the way that things are said. Just like for example, with like the ERDC wait list, I know that people will get letters in the mail that they're denied. And so just that's like one example, but it can cause confusion, I know, and I that's another example of one I don't think we can change. Because in the system they are denied because of the wait list, but some families perceive that as they're like ineligible for ERDC.
Okay, that makes
So
sense.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think, yeah, I think you're right that like we may run into issues with actually like we probably still have to say they're denied, but maybe we're not doing a good enough job explaining on those notices, like why, like what specifically a denial because of the wait list means. I think we, again, I'm not the correspondence expert, but I would think there has to be a better way we can explain it. Like while you have been denied because of the wait list, this doesn't mean that you are in any other way currently ineligible. So once there's that more clear.
Yeah, I agree.
Or that they're not open to process eligibility because eligibility isn't being processed at all. It's just you're trying to get on, but there's no space for you to even apply, so denied, right?
Mhm.
Kinja, any from you and your consumers?
Um, yeah, because, oops, maybe stop. Okay. So due to HR1 change, all healthier organ members will need to, shift from like CCO organization to open card, and we are just we are just concerned about how the members are going to get, you know, notified with that change, like what kind of notice are going to be mailed out. Um, so I think there's that concern, and we would like to kind of know before it goes out so we can prepare ourselves to, help with our members. And also for the members who used to be under CCO, but moving to OEP just to open card, that they no longer can use their health share of organ or Trillium plastic card. So then, would they get a new like paper open card, or would there be some sort of new open card? So those are the questions that we have at the moment.
Yeah, those are great questions because I really don't, I'm a little bit medically ignorant in terms of our medical program. It's not something I'm super expert in, but then also particularly about the notices that go out with that. So I think that's a good conversation to have as well, what that looks like for people.
Maria, what about your, go ahead, Inja, I'm sorry.
Because I'm wondering actually the notice is going to be mailed by who? Is it going to be by the actually CCO, or I'm not even sure.
Yeah, that's again a good question. I think that
You're cutting out, Andrew.
that happens for directly the like connection to the CCO or who they're assigned to is managed in one. So I think if we're, saying like your benefit has changed or so your circumstances have changed that you no longer either are able to or have to choose a CCO and you have open card, I would think that we would be the ones kind of telling them about that. They may receive something from their CCO too, saying like, you're no longer covered with this CCO, but I think definitely we can and should look into what kind of notice is sent from the state when that change is made.
Did you get your answer, Anja?
Yes,
I
I think
didn't.
more information is coming soon.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I didn't really give an answer, so I hope you don't.
Okay, Susan, go ahead, Susan.
But I think
So when a person is approved pending additional information, they get a notice saying, you're approved, but we need more information. And then they turn in the information, they never get a notice saying, we received this and, you're approved now. And that's been for a while now due to notices, not sending people notices if there's not a change in program. But it is a change because they were temporarily approved before and now they do have their approval. And so I know they said they were going to get that updated, but it's been like a year and like people never know that they got their RFIs and they're approved and they don't have a notice saying that.
Good point.
yeah, I didn't know.
Andrew, you're cutting out again.
I didn't know we didn't. I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on with my internet today. I was just saying that's a good point. I didn't personally know that we didn't send an additional approval notice after someone's been temporarily approved and then resolves an RFI. That seems like a problem to me.
Hey, Maria, any concerns from your consumers?
No, I think Inja shared and like I said, just for those the notices that's going to be about the renewals, and then also like Inja mentioned about open card and things like that. So yeah.
Andrew, from the consumer side of things, there for the longest time, I do know of some consumers that had conflicting notices where they would be told in a notice that they would be approved, and then they would get a notice 5 days after and say, well, no, you're not approved. And then they would get another 3 days that would say, yes, they were back approved again. So there was conflicting notices that were issued to many consumers, and they were confused here in Jackson County. And the response that they had gotten from the department down here didn't help any either. Which in turn frustrated some of the consumers.
Yeah, that seems really frustrating.
I don't know if it's the computer throwing those notices out that way or if it's someone's not catching them.
Yeah, it'd be good to figure out how that happens. Okay. We have a lot of good suggestions here. This is exactly what I was hoping for to kind of be able to set the stage or set the table a little bit more for when Lucas is able to join us. I'm gonna, talk to him about all this and then invite him to hopefully next month's meeting is my goal, and see if he can join us then. I know he's been very busy with the Medicaid work requirement changes that have been going on. So hopefully things will be quieted down a little bit by next month, and we can have him join and kind of have these conversations and what kind of steps we might need to take to make some of these updates. So I think we're ready to move on to the next topic of the agenda, unless anyone has any final thoughts to share on notices.
Yes, Maria had her hand up. Go, Maria. No?
I just gave a thumbs up, George.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thanks. Go ahead, Andrew. Could we have the agenda back up again? Thanks.
Yeah, so here we are with the agenda, and I'm sorry. So we took our break early. We did 15 minutes just about on the notices, a little over actually. And so now we're moving into new requests. So I'll get the briefing sheet pulled.
Okay.
And we'll talk about new requests until 12:15-ish, where we'll wrap up for the month. So let me get the briefing sheet shared here. Okay, so request 114. This is one that Veronica has been talking about. This is enabling ONE users to switch account roles from their dashboard and deactivate their authorized representative role. How the change will improve user experience. So currently individuals with dual roles must log out and then log back in to switch between account types. While users can select an account type during login, this process is inconvenient, especially for those who receive notifications prompting them to log into their ONE account and may not know which account is required. So this request is to add new functionality that allows users with dual roles to switch between the individual and authorized representative accounts without logging out. This will streamline the user experience, reduce confusion, and save time for users managing multiple roles. Additionally, the users will have the ability to turn off the authorized representative role for dual users from their account settings. So, like I said, we had talked about this one a little bit, and Veronica has submitted some new mock-ups to look at, because I think we talked about different placement of this button or link in the portal, and so we'll have some new mock-ups to look at there. So this is, excuse me while I go through this. This is the current screen. Okay, so this is the option we talked about last time with this switch button rules up in the right-hand side, or switch roles button up in the right-hand side. This is the link to turn off the authorized representative role from the settings page.
That just tells it how to do it, right?
Yeah, this is where you would say, I no longer want access to be an authorized representative. You'd click that link at the bottom of the screen there. And then what we'll look at now is kind of the new updated options that we talked about last time. So we had talked about one option to put it over on the left-hand side here, switch to authorized representative view. So we're assuming in this view here, we're looking at the person's individual account, and they would have this link in the upper left-hand corner to switch to the authorized representative view. And then another option is that we could put it below the case number here. So this, I guess, would be in the authorized representative view, but it could also be the same. If we were in the individual view, this would say switch to authorized representative view. But this is what it would look like if it was placed below the case number. So I think one thing we need to accomplish here is determining between the three options that we have, we've got this first option, which I think presented in the last meeting, which is this button in the upper right-hand corner, switch roles. Or do we prefer it on the left-hand side as a link above the actions and case number? Or do we like it on the left-hand side below the case number? So that's the first decision. Or really, I think the main decision that we need to make.
So with that being in mind, guys, we need to vote on this. I'm going to go with there's option 1, option 2, and option 3. Myself, I would prefer opinion on option 3. So Maria, what option would you want?
Give me some time.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and let me see if I can
Which option?
No, they said they need some time to think, and I'm going to see if I can do something to get them all on the same screen so we can look at them. If you give me just bear with me for just a second. I don't know what's going on with that.
Computer programming.
Oh, geez.
Looks like DOS is trying to take over.
Okay, yeah, I'm making it worse, so I apologize.
Don't you have a button on your program, Andrew, called a split screen? Should have it up there in your icons.
Probably George, but I think for now I'm gonna just hold on. I'm making it worse, and I apologize. You have to for everyone having to wait through me figure this out. Okay. So I will just scroll through the options again as people think about it. So this is option 1, switch roles button in the right-hand corner of the dashboard. Option 2, a link on the left-hand side of the dashboard above the case number and above this entire section. And then option 3 would be a link on the left-hand side below the case number. And just to kind of refresh, I think what's not shown here and what we had talked about last time is if a person had multiple cases that they were associated to, the like view other cases or view my cases link also appears under the case number here. So this would kind of be in line with current system design for switching between different views.
Okay. I have option 3 and Greta's option 2. Siroma says option 2.
I say option 2, says Judith.
Judith is option 2. Ninja is 2 or 3. Randy is option 2 or 3. Vixen, what's your vote? Maria, what's your vote?
I put in chat, George. I think 3, but real quick,
Okay.
Andrew, I put in chat also that for that, well, maybe we can come back to it later. We can work on this part first. For the option 2, if I'm just trying to picture how it would work for them. So would it be switched to authorized representative? Like if they're in their own account, but then they want to switch to a different case or account that they're an authorized representative for, then would that mean that they want to switch to an authorized representative case or account? Or like, I'm just trying to, and I'm thinking maybe they might have multiple cases or accounts, but yeah, I wasn't sure about that. That's why I thought maybe for option 3, if we click on, when we click on that, does it show us the different case numbers or cases or, yeah.
So yeah, I think we're planning to have it function similar to when they switch between cases. Let me pull up something here for you real quick.
Mhm.
I'm Susan at option 2. And then Brandy with an I. What's your vote?
Just a reminder, George, Brandy with an I, she's a state employee, so she wouldn't vote.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, thank you, Deanna. I was just about to say that. Appreciate it.
Okay, Vixen?
So Maria, what I'm showing on my screen here is what it looks like when somebody currently has multiple cases that they're associated to.
Mhm.
So, and if they were to click from their dashboard to view their other cases, they would come to this screen, they would choose which case they want to see, and they would click next. And this would be functioning the same way.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, I kind of feel like that might kind of get confusing too. And then I almost feel like that big green switch roles button is so much easier to see than just the little like click on this link. And yeah, so that's why I'm kind of hesitating which one. They all seem kind of
So you
good in
like,
their own way.
yeah, you like the button, but you like the placement on the left-hand side, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, definitely the green button seems easier to see and click on. Um, yeah.
Okay, Anja had a question. Go ahead, Anja.
Um, I voted for option 2 and third, but so when the member has multiple cases, I have seen quite a lot with my community I serve that they are listed under case number. Um, but those are the cases that they are actually associated with, not as authorized representative, but they are their cases under it. So now I'm thinking having switched to individual view, I mean, that button under it can be a little confusing. So I think I'm gonna unvote option 3. And I agree with Maria, maybe having the green button in option 2 area might be easier for that. So that's what I'm going to vote for. Thank you.
And I think that's more consistent to what you already have going, like actions, apply now, report a change. Having a green button that would then like lead you to somewhere else would just be a bit more cohesive as well.
Okay.
Just makes more sense.
So Vanessa, do you agree with option 2 or 3?
No, I'm on the Maria option, which is green button, left-hand side, under case number, total anarchy. We don't want any of the 3 options you gave us.
That would be the first one?
It would be the button from the first one in the position of the third option is what I'm hearing.
So option Maria, all vote for
Option
Maria.
option Maria. and just, you know, understand that this is like a weird, it's gonna look way better than that. This is just me trying to give a representation of what it could look like on the fly. So this would be option Maria.
We have 6 number 2s.
Ask. Andrew, just real quick, sorry, going back. Like when they're able to see their cases, does that include the cases that they're an authorized rep for?
Not currently, because currently when someone's switching roles, we make them completely log out of the system
Mhm.
and then log back in as their under their authorized rep account. But with this new functionality, that's something that's new as well, is showing them the cases that they're associated to.
Oh, right. Okay, that's what I thought.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, and so now I'm also hearing, it seems like we've got consensus of we like the green button rather than the blue link, but there's still some
Well,
differing opinion as to whether it would be best placed in the position of option 2 or the position of option 3.
we have 5 number 3s and 6 number 2s, it looks like. Unless I'm looking at this wrong.
Okay, so do you think that people might get confused with their case and the cases that they're an authorized representative for when like if we like if the button is under case number, then would that get confusing? And so would it be better to have the button right below the My Dashboard so they can kind of switch back and forth from their case and their authorized representative cases? And then just under the case number, it would just be like, only looking at their case. And then when they switch roles, they'll just be looking at that case that they're an authorized representative for. Does that make sense?
That makes sense to me. I think we have a number of people voting in that way. I see at least 3 people saying, let's have it above case number with the green button. I don't want to assume that's also their feeling on it, but that makes what you said makes a lot of sense to me, is that it's a different function than switching between your active cases. So maybe if we put it in a different place, it would be easier to, it would kind of separate those 2 things a little bit.
Okay, yes.
So now you've switched teams to option 2.
No more Marie option.
It looks like 7 number 2s and 4 number 3s or 5 number 3s.
I think I remember the reason why we changed the wording, from switch roles to kind of switch to that representative view or individual view. But are we able, maybe in the big green box, we could
Yeah,
reword
we can keep the words of switch to
Yeah.
authorized representative view and have it as a green button for sure. Really we can do kind of whatever we feel like makes the most sense. And yeah, so if we like the verbiage of switch to authorized representative view, but in a green button and placed above the case number section, that would be like a modified option 2, which is is what I'm seeing is where the group is leaning.
This is confusing.
It is, George, but this is a good conversation because we're kind of workshopping things as we go to find the best solution.
Okay, well, it's 12:17, so we need to make a decision.
Okay. I think from what I'm following in the chat, I'm seeing a consensus towards what we're looking at here. basically. Option 2, the button above case number, it'll be green, but it will say switch to authorized representative view or switch to individual view. Okay. So do we want to get a vote on that?
Yep, let's do it now.
We got 3 yeses so far.
So we have 4 yes, 5 yes, 6 yes, 7 yes. So who haven't voted yet?
I think we got it all, George, except you.
Judith, are you gonna go with number 2 also?
Oh, I was up for number 2, way ahead of you guys.
Okay, then let's go with number 2.
All right, good job, team. That really was, I'm not being goofy when I say that was a great discussion. I appreciate all the input. That puts us into our wrap up time for the so I can share the agenda here in just a second. Oh, where is it? Got far too many screens open.
When I get my computer, I'm gonna maybe decide to have two monitors. I haven't decided yet.
You're getting a new computer?
I am.
Oh, I hate you. That's just so doggone mean. Oh, I'm having a fight with CenturyLink right now.
I got Spectrum.
Yeah, you guys have it down there, and I've heard it's pretty good. Do you have a landline?
I have landline and it's plugged into my internet.
Yeah, yeah.
But it cost me $17 for internet for the landline phone.
Well, that's nothing. I paid $92 just to have a landline and to have my computer.
Okay, so we're into our wrap up time here. What we've got to talk about here is recruiting for participants. So one thing we didn't mention up at the top, but Christy from Fact Oregon is no longer able to join due to scheduling conflicts. So we've lost Christy, but we would like to recruit for more participants. So yeah, I think we put out the call a couple times, but any folks that you work with, any people that receive benefits that want to share their ideas and want to give input, we really want to get them connected with this group so that we can grow this group and get all sorts of good input to make changes into the system.
Just for the record, I have okay, Susan says an announcement in the regional OHA. Maybe announce it in the regional OHA collaboratives. That's a good idea. And I think that's from Susan.
That is a good idea. I will talk with Sean McAnulty about that because I know that he helps coordinate those. And I work with him pretty closely.
Now, guys, I know that I like the work we do and everything, and I think that I'm hoping that we could get more consumers on board. Andrew, maybe you could go and suggest maybe do some mailers in the mail. or possibly have an advertising on TV.
Do we belong to a website?
Yeah.
I feel like we.
So if we belong to a website that consumers are allowed to access, it would be a good place to put a little blurb saying, "Come join us."
We have a public partner page where we have information about OIC, so I can talk to our comms team about adding something there.
Make it exciting.
It goes through our comms team, so I'll do the best that I can.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, one thing I know later this month, in a couple weeks, well, next week actually, I'm going to be presenting at I think it's a conference for folks associated with Veterans Affairs and stuff like that. I can definitely mention this while I talk to that group about, how to get involved more because they're interested in learning about how to connect veterans in Oregon to our services, and so that'll be most of the presentation. But definitely, I'll make a pitch for OOIC as well.
Yay!
Why don't we make why can't there also be making announcement actions at food banks? Letting people know there on food banks. Maybe go through CCOs and make an announcement there.
These are all great ideas, George. I think I need to learn a bit more about how we would do stuff like that. But I think those are great suggestions. So
maybe go to colleges and make an announcement. Like the Oregon University.
Or just put up a flyer on their bulletin boards, their.
This all seems like James stuff. We need James to come back.
We like you. You're doing just fine.
No, I know it's just not really my this more sort of outreach stuff is definitely not my specialty. So when we have all these cool ideas, I'm like, man,
do you get
James
itchy?
would be a good person for this.
You can probably go to stores, grocery stores, like Albertsons, Safeway. You can get their okay with the manager about putting on their bulletin boards in their grocery stores.
I think right now we just have like a capacity issue because we're covering a lot of what James we're trying to. So the more of like internal mechanics, like that's something we can do. Like we can talk about to comms to get like an update on the website. Right, we can bring it up in those events that we're already going, but I think the ability to do more right now with that vacancy doesn't give us a lot of flexibility. So I think a lot of these suggestions might be something that we do once we get that position back in place so we can gain some more of that capacity.
Another one would through, and I don't think Lakeisha would mind, maybe putting some suggestive flyer with our state offices to the state of Oregon. So their case managers can maybe hand them out to consumers at the field when they're in field, outfield, whatever they do, case managers. Maybe distribute them to home care agencies. Because those two right there are the biggest, some of the biggest consumers there is. So I'm figuring maybe more than maybe 50% of consumers with state offices and home care agencies. Hey, Dion, are you putting this in, or is it Andrew putting this in?
I think it's Dion who's typing.
Oh,
But yeah, I think like as Susanna said, I think a lot of this is good ideas. We may have to, I think we'll do what we can for now. Some of this we may need to kind of let cook for a little bit while we wait to have somebody who really has the capacity to take lead on this outreach part of it. But I think these are all awesome suggestions.
the answer to your question, Maria, is we have, how many do we have now? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think if we move to say 14, that would probably be making the match.
Yeah, I think we have 11 right now.
So missing 3.
If we wanted 14, then yeah, we would need at least 3 more. But
whatever happened to April?
She's out today. She'll be back.
Okay. So that would take us to what? You would have to be looking for what, 2?
no, the 11 we had is including April.
Okay. So it'd take us to 3. Susan, can you elaborate on request 100?
So I had a couple on Friday come in because they got to the disability on the Realty page where you can type in how you want your disability to be described. And they got stuck because you can't use periods, you can't use commas. But now they can use 250 characters soon, but you can't use like punctuation, which makes it really hard. They gave up and they called me to make it to do the application. And so I
Yikes.
don't know why you would be able to do 250 characters and like not be able to use punctuation.
That sounds like a bug to me and not something that we wanted.
Yeah, because it says you can only use alpha. I mean, I struggled because I was like, oh, I'll put 2 spaces, but it was like, no, you can only use one space. And
So I'm gonna
I only use a hyphen and a forward slash. So it's got like really hard.
yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Excuse me. So yeah, I will follow up on that right now.
Okay, guys. So is there anything you want to bring up now before we close? I hear none. Jan and Andrew, how many of the suggestions I may have come in yet?
Are you talking about the new requests?
Yeah.
I haven't checked since we met last week, but we have 2 additional items from we have 2 additional items that we weren't able to touch. One came in through the feedback, and then one is a revisit of work item 77.
Okay, and will we be able to see those here soon, or they're not going to be decided on?
Well, I think since we're over time now, it'll probably be a June review.
Yeah, and we had 2 on the agenda that we didn't get to today. Just because we had a packed agenda with Jillian visiting us and talking about notices. And so we've got at least 2 more that are ready talk about that we'll start off with on our agenda next month, and then that gives us a whole other month to get new requests in. So it's we are over time, so I won't let everybody go. But just a reminder to any thoughts you have or anything for the system, use the link to submit new requests. Share them with your coworkers, share them with your friends.
Before everybody departs, I want to tell everybody that I've been doing a lot of advocating and such, and I want to tell everybody, which was a surprise to me. I had gotten an email from Salem, and out of Nikisha's department, somehow I got invited to come to Salem to what is called the workforce conference. And I guess basically the state is paying for my meal. Already been decided on. My next problem is trying to get transportation up there and back, which is hopefully being worked on. That her department's working on, I guess. So I just wanted to give you guys some good news. It's
That's a cool opportunity, George.
21st of, supposed to be at 21st of May at 9 o'clock in the morning, the whole day until 4:30. Gonna be a long day. So I will see you all next month. You guys have done a really good job today. So I will see you in June, and stay safe, and I'll see you then.
Thanks, everybody.
Talk to you later.